Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast, where we're back once again to continue to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable and confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And you know what? If you've ever wanted to know what it was like to go from culinary school to creating generational wealth, even if you're in the military, well, guess what? Today is absolutely the show that you're going to want to watch and listen to all the way to the very end, because today's guest not only was in the Army for 6 years, he's also spent the last 14 plus years investing across the country, i.e. long distance investing. And he has a passion for educating military communities on how to create generational wealth. And he's the co-founder of Active Duty Passive Income, as well as the senior managing partner of Active Duty Passive Income, ADPI Capital. Welcome to the show, Eric Upchurch. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Thank you so much for having me, Billy. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to talk to some international folks as well, hopefully.
Yeah, man. Well, definitely you will be. And I'm excited about your experience because I know you have a lot of international experience and also a great expertise in terms of U.S. real estate. So, Eric, one of the things we love to be able to do here is we start out not pretty much every single conversation with the same 2 questions. So I'd love to know, where actually do you live in the United States?
So I live near the San Francisco Bay Area, well, about 2 hours east now of the San Francisco Bay Area, so on the West Coast. Okay,
fantastic, on the West Coast of the U.S., and I think most of us know where the Bay Area is up there north. Yeah. And tell us a little bit about what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
One thing that I found that, and not to brag because I don't even know where this came from, but it just really lightened up my day when we found out that our 10-year-old, almost 11-year-old boy is reading at a 12th grade level. And my wife and I kind of saw that and looked at each other like, we were not readers as kids, either one of us. We were out playing kick the can in the yard and playing with friends and stuff outside and not focused on reading, but he loves to read. And just because of that, so that just really lit up my day. But I'll also say, I always start my day with 3 pieces of gratitude. That always gets me thinking positive thoughts immediately before my feet hit the ground. And one of those is almost undoubtedly thankful for my wife and all of her support. Couldn't do any of this without her, for sure. And then also I often gravitate to be thankful for breathing and just, I'm here, I'm alive, I've got another opportunity at doing something great today.
And that is absolutely awesome. So just thinking about the little things like taking a breath, as well as the gratitude for the family, right? Thinking about your wife and your children. And I wasn't a big reader either. And we have 2 children as well, and they read constantly. They're motivating me to read even more. So
I feel like we're doing something right if that's the case, right?
There you go. Yep, exactly. We're doing it. So listen, Eric, I mean, I gave a couple of highlights, and we just talked even more about you also being father and husband, but give us a little bit more about your backstory. Help us understand kind of how you've gotten to this point in your journey. And I always love hearing it from a fellow Midwesterner. So give us a breakdown.
Yeah. So I grew up in Iowa, which is central Iowa. I mean, central part of the United States, landlocked, very much so. And my buddy and I said, let's get out of here. Let's go find some opportunity. We had an opportunity to come out to the West Coast. So right after high school, when we graduated, we took off west, and we had this passion to go to culinary school. And because of the opportunity, we actually were able to have the person that we were living with paid for both of us to go to culinary school. And we wanted to be chefs, and we wanted to own a restaurant. I mean, we had the name of the restaurant picked out and everything. I mean, that was and we had worked in restaurants as, bussers and dishwashers and stuff in high school, kind of just as side jobs. And so and advanced up to chefs and cooks and stuff. Yep. So then anyway, go to California, go to culinary school. And I realized, and I'm doing multiple jobs, and I'm starting an associate's degree program because my girlfriend at the time's mother said you need to go to college, like real college, and so thankful for that. But so I was managing a coffee shop. I was working, this is after culinary school. I was working as a pantry chef, and I was making almost half as much money as a chef with twice the work as I was managing a coffee shop. So anyway, not to bore you with that stuff, but I realized at that point, man, I don't have a passion for this. And if I don't have a passion for it, and this actually is relative to our conversation today, if I don't have a passion for being a chef or for cooking or creating, I wasn't very creative. And I recognized that early enough off in my career that I just stopped. I just said, this isn't for me. This is backbreaking work, and I don't love this. So kudos to all you chefs out there. And good for you. We need great chefs. So, but, so then I went from my associate's degree to get my bachelor's degree. I transferred to another university, UC Santa Barbara in Southern California. And at that point, when I graduated, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, like many college graduates. So, and this is actually something I've never talked about on any other podcast. So I'm kind of, when you started talking about this, I said, well, kind of, you've heard the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. Well, I'm honing in on the master part now, but the jack of all trades, so culinary school, and then I'd been in retail sales, but then after school, I was an operating engineer apprentice running bulldozers and excavators. And that's something probably nobody knows, but I thought, well, I mean, they make $30 an hour. And to me at the time, that was like a ton of money. I'm thinking to myself, how could I make that much money? That'd be amazing. But you're running big bulldozers and loaders and working with dirt all day. And I'm a college graduate, and everyone around me was like, what are you doing here? So my wife and I or my girlfriend, but wife now, we had a serious conversation, like, where's the direction? What are you doing? What do you want to do? And I decided to enlist in the Army. And most people coming out of college would choose to be an officer, not an enlisted member. But I chose to be enlisted because I knew that since I was working in the cornfields of Iowa when I was 12 years old, I was an influencer of people. I was always a manager of people. So I want your audience to think of, we mentioned passion real quickly, but what are you inherently kind of driven to? What do you find yourself constantly doing on a team? And for me, I always ended up managing people and encouraging them. You have two hands for a reason, one to bring you, one to reach up and pull yourself up, and the other one to reach down and grab others and bring them up to you. So I'd always been a team leader. I've always been a manager. Every job I've had, I've been a manager of people. And so now I'm at this point of my life where I can be enlisted and manage a lot of younger guys who probably don't know much about the world. Or I could be an officer and technically manage a couple hundred that I don't really know very well. So I chose the enlisted route. And that took me to basic training. It took me to one duty station on the East Coast in Georgia. And I ended up in special operations. Another funny story I'll say real quickly is I ended up in special operations, Army special operations, because I needed to make it to my own wedding. My wedding date had been set. There was no plan B. Had I missed one test, had I anything that would have happened, had I sprained an ankle or made somebody mad or whatever it was and been pushed back my date, I would have missed my own wedding. So because of that, I tried so hard that I was the top of my class. Wow. And I was selected immediately for special operations and spent my whole career in special operations. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that's awesome. And so that gets us to the military, your experience. It also, I think you said 12 years old, you started.
Cornfield. My first set of taxes that my parents had to file with me included on it was when I was 12. And I actually remember getting a $1 refund that year. Federal refund or something. And, but yeah, I was detasseling corn. You walk through the corn rows and you pull the top of the tassels off. I mean, you're a Midwest kid. You've probably seen people doing that,
Yeah.
So all the kids in my area would do that every summer, make a few $100 and it's good money for a 12-year-old.
Right on. So you got your first refund at 12. That's not bad. So I heard you saying a lot of things that I just want to pull out, right? Because I think even from the very beginning, so it sounded like you had a very high level of self-awareness from even the very beginning, right? And you knew the things that you wanted to move towards, and you knew the things that you wanted to move away from. And then there was also this desire to go and not be an officer, but to be enlisted, and it sounded like, and I'd love for you to know, so I'm combining the self-awareness in the beginning and then really making an impact in terms of leadership. And I'd love to know how that self-awareness and that desire to make an impact on others is helping you today.
Yeah. So interesting to look back. I would call it maybe self-awareness, but during the process from 12 to 32 years old, there wasn't I'm self-aware. I don't think I was self-aware until after 32 years old. So in that 20-year span, I feel like a lot of it was just, just to be frank, it was selfishness. It was more, I don't know what else to call it, but it was more like I'm doing what I want. I'm doing what I'm good at or what I'm driven to do naturally, inherently, right? Mm-hmm. So looking back, I could call it self-awareness, but it was just me going, well, I like that, and I like helping that person. So as an enlisted leader of enlisted soldiers, I made all 27 of my soldiers come up with a college curriculum. Many of them thought that college was for rich people or highly educated or smart people. And so there are 18-year-olds in my unit that had never left their part of the state. Like they've never left their county before. So, imagine what the military does to that. It's like traveling internationally is a big shock, but these kids thought that, and no one in their family had ever gone to college. So I made all of them go to, enroll in college and help them with the paperwork. Cause oftentimes just the paperwork is the scariest part. Right. Mm-hmm. But explaining to them that it's just 13th grade, it's just the next level. You don't have to go there knowing something. You go there to learn something. So I really got a lot out of that, and still do anytime I get a chance to mentor somebody. No,
so that is that's fantastic. And realizing that you were going through that process, and then you were also helping. You talked about the two hands before. You were grabbing others to help pull you up, and you were then doing the exact same thing and helping to put things in a relative notion for other people. So the people that were reporting to you didn't feel overwhelmed. So. There's this, I kind of always have this hashtag, teamwork makes the dream work. Right. Yeah. And so we talked a little bit in the very beginning about active duty passive income. Right. And so I know that this is something that you're very passionate about and that you are also teaming with others about. So talk to us a little bit about how that impact and that leadership is helping with the teamwork today to go out and affect so many other lives.
Yeah, this is a great topic, and actually good dovetails in very well to this conversation, because what I'm realizing now is that, or I have for the last probably 5 to 10 years, really understanding clearly, especially in the multifamily sector, but how important finding say there's a wheel, you only have to, or a pie chart, you only have to find what piece of that pie you fit into. And so we talked about passion and your kind of inherent abilities, what you gravitate to. Find that one thing, get really good at that one thing, and then find a team, build a team around that. You don't have to, it's good to know generally whatever business you're going to get into. You need to learn, you need to, be able to speak the language, so to speak. You need to have some experience. You need to be able to take action. You need to be able to network, all the things we talk about, but find the one thing that you are very just kind of good at and get better at it. And if you're bad at something, like I'm not bad at underwriting, I just don't like underwriting. So we have somebody who loves underwriting on our team. That is amazing. That's how teams should work. So find yourself a team, surround yourself by a team that are your weaknesses, and that you are their weakness. Your strength is their weakness. That is the kind of, you call it yin yang, but it's a 5-way yin yang or whatever. You really should complete each other through the way you communicate, the tasks you're able to achieve, the way you motivate each other. If you're too similar with a partner, it's not going to work out because you're going to both want to do the same things and you're both going to not want to do the same things. So, just find the one thing. I would recommend at the very first, find the one thing that you're very good at and go build your team around that.
So being able to build your team around the things that you're not good at, finding your sweet spot, I guess is, I'll kind of say there. But you just gave us a really good example, like, because I was thinking about you being self-aware at a certain point, and you were saying, "Oh, look, Billy, I wasn't really self-aware. I was just doing what I wanted to do." So if you could contextualize what you just said, right? And we've both been through this, right? Where you know that you are good at something, and you also start to become aware that you are other things that you're not. But because you're just getting started, and I'm going to say that you want to be active, you want to try to do everything else. Yep. Like, how can someone recognize that they are actually not moving the agenda forward by trying to do everything versus trying to say, all right, this is what I'm good at. This is what I am going to stay in my lane and work around. Yeah,
I mean, this is kind of what I wanted to say. I don't think I got into it very well, but with Jack of all trades, I was doing all these other jobs and thinking, I'm going to be a professional operator. I'm going to be a professional this. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. And I tried all those things. So same thing happened to me when I started real estate investing. I bought a house as a soldier, and I lived in it, and I ended up renting that house out as a rental property, but it wasn't cash flow positive. It wasn't a good investment because I bought it as a primary residence. But then I started doing research in real estate investing. And then I started to, typical Eric, I did tax liens. I was live-in flipping. I did single family, BRRRR investing, small multifamily flips. The list goes on, and private lending. I did so many different things, and all to figure out what it was that I liked. And the indicator is the thing that maybe you fail at or feel worst about, for one reason or another. So that comes back to self-awareness, actually, is just trying things out and asking yourself, man, how did that work? And then how did that feel? Because it might have worked out, but you never want to do it again. So there is that. If you listen to the way you feel about your investments, or you listen to the way you feel about your actions in an entrepreneurial venture, you're going to have more success, because typically that feeling is your personality coming out. That's like the thing that you would do if nobody was paying you. Right. So if you listen to those things, and you'll experience some failure or some disappointment or some anger or whatever it is, and chances are that's the indication that that's not exactly the right niche for you. And vice versa. I like to end it on a positive. When you feel really good about it and you want to do that thing again, that's the one you go for. That's the one. That's your niche. That's your strength. One of my strengths is 100% is super networking. And I'm developing this whole strategy around how we network. I have developed a strategy around how we network with surrounding communities around our assets, not just the people that live in our assets, but rallying. I just gave a presentation about rallying the community behind your asset and bolstering up investor returns and net operating income and all this stuff, because you're really networking with people the right way.
So being able to network with them the right way. So what does that look like?
It looks like leading with a giving heart is something, kind of a phrase that I like to say, generally speaking. But when you go to a conference or you go to a networking event or a local meetup or something like that, many people will say, and this is what I used to do, go with an intention. I need an underwriter. I need a deal. I need to raise capital. Well, instead, look at the people that are surrounding you and say, what does he need? What does she need? What do they need? And if you do that, you're going to get what you need, because you're going to be the most interesting person in the room to them. And this is you can read books about this. You could watch YouTube videos on this. This is just, psychology. And Chris Voss actually talks about this stuff. He's a hostage negotiator. If you haven't read Never Split the Difference, it's an amazing book. I highly recommend. But agreed. But guys, it's make other people feel important first, and then you become the most important person in the room. So I'll go to a conference and I'll just looking at a person and instead of looking through their head and thinking about your next conversation, ask them about their life and do it with a genuine attitude. Okay. So you're going to say, how are you? And what is your job? What are you looking for? And as you're doing that, you have to have the situational awareness to know what next question is going to come up, what they're actually saying to you, even if they're not saying it directly. If you think about the human psyche, people want to tell you their gripes. It's natural for us to say, you say, how's it going today? And I'll be like, oh, it's great. It's a little smoky because we have all these fires in California. Well, why did I say a negative? It's a natural thing for a human to say what their problem is to somebody else. So if you're listening for that, somebody might say, oh man, we're looking for deals. We're really, 2020 has been tough and we're really looking for this next deal. Okay. Mental note. Got it. John's looking for a next deal. And then I go over and have a conversation with Suzanne. And Suzanne says, man, we've got this deal and we're just like having a hard time finding a buyer. So now, because you were intentional in this environment, you can now be the connector of two people. That's super networking. So we do that on a micro scale at events and just in daily conversations, but we also do that at our assets and in the communities to try and connect our community and rally them around our assets.
I love how you're focusing on being able to rally around asset, build community, and you've given us a very, very practical example of how you can go and really focus on how you can give to others. And actually, you talked about reading books. I just finished a book not long ago, The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. And so that was one of the things. I've been in sales for 20 some odd years, and I guess it helped to just crystallize some of the concepts. And when you do go in with that thought and with that type of heart, it just makes it much easier to help other people. And then when you're doing that in a genuine way, of course, you're able to build and add to the community. So thanks for giving us that a concrete example. And I know that you have lots of experience in both being a passive investor as well as an active investor. I would love for you to help us understand what is the difference between the two, and what are the keys, or what have you seen in your experience, the keys to being a successful passive investor as well as an active investor? Yeah.
So the first thing I would say to be a success as a passive investor, which I absolutely love. I mean, the first investment that I invested in is a 439 pad mobile home community.
Wow.
Portfolio. And I get a $2,000 check every quarter, like clockwork, even through what's going on. And so I love that asset. I love that. I love that income. And and then, at the end of the term, I obviously get my investment back plus any kind of disposition costs, right? Or disposition income. Yep. So
and sorry, just one thing, just so in case people don't understand what disposition is, meaning once it's sold, once the asset is sold. So sorry.
Or they could refi us out. They could refinance the investors out of the deal and keep it if they wanted to or whatever. But so I would recommend, and I did this, I would recommend that if you're considering investing as a limited partner or just a passive investor in any kind of deal, I would recommend vetting the sponsor, the deal sponsor, the owner, the general partners of the deal, and asking them if you can learn through them. A lot of times they'll get you on their email list and they'll send you educational pieces, and that's great. But what I did was I found somebody that I knew well enough to say, I'd like to have your phone number and be able to have a conversation with you about what this means. What does being a general partner look like? What does asset management look like for you on a daily basis? What do these splits mean? And just explaining the process. What is this going to mean to my taxes? What is this going to mean to, when you sell it? So instead of just investing, plopping your money down in a crowd fund or something like that, nothing wrong with that necessarily. It's a strategy as well. But I would say invest with somebody who has the time to educate you personally. And just not a ton of their time, but because they're busy, but a few conversations to let you learn the process as well. And learn what your money is doing for them. I think that's critical. And then you'll get to know them as operators, but certainly vet them beforehand too. Ask them tons of questions, almost like an interview. If you're going to give them $100,000, you need to interview them pretty well and get referrals and things like that.
Yep.
Now, as a general partner, 100%, the biggest thing that I would say is make sure your team is dialed in. I mean, we're able to follow operating procedures as a military group, but you need to make sure that your team have the right skill sets to get the job done. You don't want to have 5 people who all like to do the same thing. You need to have one person doing asset management, 1 or 2 people doing capital raise, 1 or 2 people doing, the pitch deck and kind of the tech side of it and building the website and investor portal and all this other stuff. So figure out that stuff before you get into the general partnership and owning these deals and bringing your own investors in.
Okay, so perfect. So you've helped us to understand on the passive side and then even on the active side, making sure, and it sounds like it's coming back to teamwork once again and making sure that you have the right team, right people on the bus so that ultimately you're able to demonstrate your capability and also demonstrate how you're going to not only protect, but increase your investors' trust in you, which is typically done through cash. So, which is fantastic. So I do want to turn a little bit because I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit and this is really about one way I see it as giving back. And it's also the platform that you are creating, right? With active duty passive income. Talk to us a little bit about that. And then when you do that, I would like for you to touch on the long distance aspect of that, right? Because you're in your home in San Francisco and you're able to somehow still be able to create returns actively, passively through this amazing community that you're building. So talk to us a little bit about ADPI.
Yeah, so ADPI is completely a separate entity from my multifamily investing, but I'll talk about both. Yep. What we're able to do with active duty passive income, it's the premier military real estate investing education platform for veterans, anyone who's served in the United States, either past or present. We're just teaching them that there's, the military's job is not to teach you how to retire. It's not to teach you, what do you call it? A qualified retirement plan? What
plan.
Is it? Yeah. So, they have a thrift savings plan in the military in the US and there's, the 401k in the US also. And those are kind of traditional retirement plans. But instead of hoping that you're going to have $1.5 million by the time you're 65 years old and you're just working your butt off for 45 years, there's a maybe better way for you to do it. Now that dovetails in to veterans leaving the military and needing a transition. That is we've had more veterans committing suicide that I know personally than I buried as the burial detail NCO in my unit. It's because, and I want to talk about this because it's a huge kind of topic right now, but if a veteran who served, and I don't care what country it is, the country doesn't matter. It could be Spain, it could be the United States. When a veteran of the military transitions out, when they're in, they had camaraderie, they had awards and pats on the back. They knew what uniform to wear, what to look like, what time to be there. They had control of the mission. They had training. They had everything that they needed. They had camaraderie, a team. When you move out of that, it is, and also cortisol. They had the stress hormone. They had adrenaline and serotonin and all of these amazing things that keep human bodies running, right? But when you move out of that, and say you're a Spanish soldier, you move out of that, then you are faced with a world that is, you do not have control over civilian actions. You do not have control over what people do when. You don't know the people around you at your new job are unpredictable. You're not getting any of the adrenaline rushes anymore. You're not getting awards like you did for accomplishing something amazing. You lost your camaraderie. You lost your team. So why do you think that veterans are committing suicide? Because they're looking for the thing that they can relate with, and they can't find it if they don't have, their military experience anymore on the outside. So they turn to drugs and alcohol. They turn to thrill seeking. Maybe they get incarcerated. They get put in jail. Or unfortunately, they'll commit suicide because there's no way out for them. So we use our community as a way that hopefully, and we found that, real estate changed my life, and hopefully people, can see that as long as you're breathing, you have purpose. And it doesn't matter if it's real estate investing or if you want to start a club of your own or something like that. That's the important thing, is to know that you have a purpose. You just have to go find it now. So we use that platform to educate military members. We have single family, we have multifamily education courses and masterminds where people can hold each other accountable. And in this community, we all speak the same language. And it doesn't matter where you come from. Nothing matters except that you were military, and we all can relate. And so it's an amazing community. We have 13,000 members in there. Now, on the multifamily side, we are investing remotely because of technology. I mean, our team is comprised of someone in Hawaii, California, New Orleans, Pensacola, Florida, and Virginia. So all over the United States. No one lives near each other. So because we use technology, we have ways that we communicate. We have, we're able to obviously fly to a property when we need to.
Yep.
And it's completely possible for anybody to invest anywhere, even internationally. I'll give you a great example. My partner, Adam, his first investment was a 62 unit in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is in this kind of eastern central part of the United States. He bought that property while stationed in the Air Force in Japan. So he was in Japan, bought a 62 unit in the United States as his first deal. So it's possible.
I love that. I love that. Not only is it possible, it is a reality. And I love how you simplified that, Eric, because it really is about technology and teams and being able to be coordinated. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, as long as you have the process in place, the teams in place, then really technology is it's just a game changer. It's an equalizer, right? Things that we would have never thought about even probably 30 years ago or 20 years ago, 10 years ago, for some people. And it just makes everything, it's a game changer.
If somebody ever tells me that they have, time or money problems or, whatever, the typical reasons that you can't get into, that you quote unquote can't get into real estate investing, typically time or money.
Yep.
Well, like you, I have a wife of 15 years. I have 2 kids. I have a full-time W-2 job.
Yep.
We have 5 companies at Active Duty Passive Income, including financial services. I mean, we own a mortgage branch as well. And we're investing in, last year we closed 571 multifamily doors.
Awesome.
If I can do this, guys, just an Iowa kid who's just persistent and learning and doing the things that we teach, it's like anyone can do it. There isn't an excuse. If you're listening to this right now and you say, well, I don't have the time, I'm too busy. Well, I just told you that I've got 5 businesses and a full-time job. And I found an hour or 2 a night to write a book, to put out some courses, to, find a deal, to talk to brokers. You can wake up at 4:00 in the morning. If it means something to you, you have to commit. There isn't an excuse out there that is going to limit you other than just fear. You just sitting there going, I can't do it.
I love that. And you just hit it right on the head. And you said if you're listening to us, and I would say if you're listening to us, you need to jump over to one of the video channels because you should see Eric. He's talking about, and he looks like vibrant, completely alive, and he has his discipline to make sure that he's maximizing on the same 24 hours that you and I have. He's doing the exact same thing. He's just making sure that each minute is accounted for so that the productivity is there. And even if it's just an hour, but you're focused on doing whatever it is you're doing to move your agenda forward, then that's what it's all about. So you know what, Eric, when you start seeing those types of things, it really helps to give us a much better idea as to how we can continue to move things forward. But as we get to this point of the show, I want to keep talking to you forever. Unfortunately, time is limited, man. That's why you're out there doing your things, right? And so we're getting to the part of this program where we talk about the going long final 3. But the thing is, Eric, I never ask the going long final 3 unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you the questions. So are you ready for me to ask?
I am ready to ask.
Man, I knew you were ready. So here's the thing. We talked about where you are in the States, and now I kind of want to bring it back this way. So with me living in Barcelona, Spain, I always want to know, what is your favorite European city, either that you've already visited or is still on your bucket list to visit?
Does it have to be a city or it can be like a little town?
Oh man, if you can go to town, then that's even better. Go.
Monterosso, Italy.
Oh,
somewhere
nice.
just slow. San Gimignano, we rented a villa there many years ago. And just the countryside, Tuscany, and then the kind of north shore of Italy. I love the slow life, and so that's where I would go. Somewhere I can see the ocean, but people are just moving slow.
There you go. I love that. It'll be in the show notes. And listen, so the other thing is, Eric, anyone who's successful has gotten to a point to be successful, not only because they've made a lot of really, really good decisions, but probably more importantly, because they've made a couple of mistakes along the way. Now, I'm sure you've only made one mistake, only one. But if you can think of that one thing, like what is the lesson that you would pay forward to somebody else and so that they can learn from that?
Yeah, I would actually encourage people to make mistakes because the more mistakes you make, the more you will, as we discussed in the interview, the more you'll hone into on what your craft is, what your specialty is. So for me, I would say investing in tax liens in the US is a mistake I made, but it was the thing that got me started in investing and in wanting to learn more. And I realized that I despise tax liens because it's too slow of a process for me, and I want to be more active than that. But it wasn't a mistake; it was a learning lesson. So I would actually encourage people to take so much action, decisive, persistent action, that they do make mistakes. And there are ways to put buffers on those so you're not losing a bunch of money. I'm not advocating that, but certainly go out and try things. And when you make mistakes, you'll learn.
I love that. And that's one of the things we talk about, being able to fail fast, forward, and frequently. And so when you do that, you start to build up that knowledge base. So thanks for helping us to remind ourselves to not be afraid of making mistakes. Quite the opposite, lean into them. And you know what, Eric, it's the last question of the day, man. So help us go out, filling up the brain. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but what book would you recommend?
2 books for you. One is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And 2 is Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink.
Okay. Extreme Ownership. And we're going to put
Must Read.
Can't Hurt Me. Yeah. I devoured Goggins' book, not this summer, but the previous summer. It was just, wow. I started reading it and I was like, oh my gosh. And I just kept going.
Makes me feel so weak.
It was amazing, man. It was amazing. So we'll include them in the show notes. Listen, from 12 years old, getting the first refund, being able to be self-aware, understanding that you wanted to move from Iowa, head out west, try some things, your associate's degree, you've got your bachelor's, you're doing W-2, you're really focused on impacting other people's lives. You've been you are an active investor, a passive investor. You've given us so much greatness, Eric, to really think about. And we've just started scratching the surface. So I am sure that there are so many people that are like, dude, I got to get in touch with Eric. What is the best way to get in touch with him? Can you help us all out, man? What is the best way to get in touch with you, find out more about what you're doing?
Too easy. If anybody emails me, Eric at activedutypassiveincome.com, I will respond. So glad to help anybody. If you have questions about anything I talked about, I'm usually very responsive. I do time block for emails and things to make sure I am taking charge of my income producing activities, but definitely will respond to every email that comes through. So you can also find me on Instagram at Real Eric Upchurch.
All right. Instagram, Real Eric Upchurch, and also Eric at activedutypassiveincome.com. We're going to include both of those in the show notes as well, so everybody has a way, because if you're running on the treadmill or you're doing something, then don't worry. We've got you covered. Also to Eric, and I didn't say this in the beginning, but I would like to thank you for your service as well. And it's greatly appreciated. So thank you. Thank you very much for your service. And then also very much thank you for spending time with me and the entire Going Long audience and sharing your wisdom and your insight today.
Thank you for having me, Billy. I appreciate it.
All right. Awesome, man. And also too, you know what, for the Going Long audience, I just want to say thanks once again for taking the time to listen, learn from Eric. He's really shared so much goodness with you. And as a result, it'd be great to ask you to go out and share today's episode with at least 2 or 3 other people, right? Because what Eric was talking about, that there's someone that can actually benefit from the goodness that he's sharing. And also would ask you to go ahead and leave us a review. Let us know what you liked about today's episode, what you want to find out more from Eric, and he's giving you a way to reach out to him. And also too, if you want to leave us a 5-star review, we'd love to have that. But most importantly, leave us what your feedback is. So until then, I'm really looking forward to welcoming everyone back to the very next episode, and go out and make it a great day. Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long-distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.